episode of All the WrestleManias. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Sigwald.
We had a lot of fun breaking down WrestleMania 8 for you on our last episode. And so to this time, we've got another Not Just WrestleManias edition, and actually a Not Just WWF edition. This will be our first show that was not a WWF/WWE. We're taking a look at the 1989 Chi-Town Rumble. Our recent foray into the 1985 Wrestling Classic led us down more than a few rabbit holes, and one NWA/WCW show kept kind of coming up when we were looking for older shows to watch. So we went back and watched this one, and oh boy, are we glad we did. So we'll break it down for you. But first, we wanted to get into some podcast news and some other wrestling-related content that we wanted to highlight. So Rich, I know you had some website updates that you wanted to share with the folks.
Yeah, so we've been toiling away hard at updating the website. And first, the major update is that we actually bought the domain name. So you can now just go to allthewrestlemanias.com, and that will take you right on over to our website. And from there, you'll not just find our old episodes and our current episode, but you'll find links to short little biographies about myself and about Tim. And you'll be able to find links to different music that we've used on the show. We've also curated a references page. So you can visit that page and say you hear us reference a promo that we both love, such as Jake the Snake confronting The Undertaker. And that's when The Undertaker turned face. We have a link to a video of that promo on our website now. So we will try to keep as many of those as we can going and pay attention to what we're talking about so that we can post those things. So keep an eye out on that, and you can check that out. There's also a link to our blog and links to our social media of Facebook, on Twitter at WrestleManiaPod. And you can always email us at WrestleManiablog@gmail.com. And also on the website, we now have a user submission form. So you can go ahead and submit requests, questions, anything you'd like to us.
Yeah, very cool. The website looks great. Richard's been doing a ton of work on there. He keeps sending me updates. I'm like, that looks good. Oh, that also looks good. Hey, that looks good too. So it keeps getting better and better. I'm especially excited about the music page. You can go and check out some of the theme music that Richard's created for the podcast, and he's got a few sort of variations on his theme already. There's a classic hard rock theme. There's a 8-bit video game theme. I'm sure we'll get a dubstep theme eventually. So
I've been thinking string quartet, possibly.
Ooh,
that get would be a little fancy and classy.
You could have people using it for their weddings.
Yeah. Can you please play the All the WrestleManias theme as the bride comes down? We would really love that.
It's the kind of thing that lasting commitments are built on. So
it's like Macho Man and Elizabeth.
That's right, which we all know lasted forever. Anyway, so some other wrestling content we just wanted to highlight at the top of the show. Last night on the episode of SmackDown, Big E suffered a broken neck in his match with Ridge Holland as a pretty nasty bump. So we're sending him a lot of good thoughts and best wishes for a quick and full recovery. He did post some stuff on Twitter. He seemed to be in good spirits. So we like Big E. I hope he does okay. Hope he's able to come back. And
for sure,
that was a nasty bump. So
yeah.
And on Rich's recommendation, I went and watched the Stone Cold Broken Skull sessions featuring Ron Farouk Simmons, and I just got to say, damn, what an amazing episode. That guy is such a storyteller. He needs to read audiobooks because he's got maybe one of the best voices I've ever heard.
Oh my God, I'd listen to him and read the telephone book to me.
It's a really great show. There's some amazing footage of him training with Hiro Matsuda and guys like Hacksaw Butch Reed, who we'll see on this show. There's also some really good clips of his stuff from sort of the Attitude Era and the Accolade Protection Agency. One of my favorites is when he tells, I think he tells Road Dogg, if that check bounces, so do you.
He's got some good lines.
Yeah.
But man, I forgot about that training sequence with Hiro Matsuda. Oh my God, he's kicking his ass. Like, you wouldn't think you'd ever see Ron Simmons get his ass kicked, but my God, the workout that they're going through is just terrifying.
Yeah. Matsuda clearly put those guys to their paces. and really, yeah. So
And there was no air conditioning in the room and stuff like
no,
that. Oh,
they're just like covered in sweat.
yeah.
It's very uncomfortable looking. So highly recommend that if you like Stone Cold, especially if you like Ron Simmons, which you know that we do. That's a great one. And then the other one that I just dipped into after that was a little show called Table for Three, which I wasn't familiar with. So I actually caught season 1, episode 1 from 2015, which is an episode with WrestleMania legends. So it's the premise of the show is it's 3 folks from wrestling kind of sitting down to dinner, and they just, they talk about whatever, they bullshit a little bit, tell some stories. But this one has Mean Gene Okerlund, Roddy Piper, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. So that right there, that's, highly recommend. All 3 of those guys are no longer with us, of course. So it's really, it was nice to hear them sit down and talk. They all look super old here.
Yeah.
At one point, Mean Gene's phone rings and he can't figure out how to turn it off or whether it's even his phone. So that made me laugh a little bit.
I love Mean Gene's outtakes. I've seen a couple and they're just hilarious. Like that voice that he always had was like his normal voice. So it was just weird to suddenly hear him curse or something like that, or be angry. So
yeah, and he of course had a much bigger role off screen, that with the WWF back in the day. But they have some good stories. They talk a little bit about Mr. T, and Piper obviously was not a fan. He sort of looked at Mr. T as somebody who wanted to kind of come in and play wrestler and kind of get a little bit of fame off of the guys who were doing the actual work. So that didn't go over particularly well. And I think maybe my favorite is Piper telling a story about how Johnny Valentine used to shit in people's cowboy hats. And at multiple points where he's recounting this story, he acts it out. So you can make sure that, you can imagine what it would look like for somebody to shit in a cowboy hat. And he says multiple times, and he would always put the Dairy Queen whip on it, which is disgusting.
Oh. I don't know what that means, but I don't like it.
If you watch it, you can see Piper kind of wiggle a little bit so that you get, the swirl, the little the cone.
Ew.
So, yeah, I know, right? That's
it's not like the chocolate shell dip, right? It's just
I hope not. So Piper died, of course, in 2015. So this may actually be one of the last pieces of video he did. I'm not sure actually when it was recorded. But anyway, there's a couple more episodes I want to check out. There's one with WCW Legends where it's Sting and Vader and DDP together. So I'm going to check those out. So, all right. I think we're done with the news and the media highlights. So I guess it's time to talk the Chi-Town Rumble.
Hell yeah.
On Peacock under the WCW brand. But of course, there's sort of a complicated story about kind of which promotion we're actually watching here that Rich will talk about in just a second. This was held February 20th, 1989. It was at the University of Illinois, Chicago, the UIC Pavilion. It's still there, actually. It's now the Credit Union 1 Arena, because of course it is. The attendance for the show was about 8,000. So, quite a bit away from the kind of the WrestleMania shows. You kind of get an idea of the scale of these NWA, WCW shows versus, things like the WrestleManias. And the runtime on this one was 2 hours and 29 minutes.
So this show is very early under the WCW name. Just recently, Ted Turner had purchased Jim Crockett Promotions, which operated under the NWA. So I'm not going to try to dig into that too much because it's extremely complicated, extremely weird, and I don't want to get anything wrong and set any kind of wrong history going in our podcast here. Not like that stopped us before, but here we are this time because this one it's just far too convoluted and the business thing, and it draws your attention away from the awesome wrestling that happens on this show. Yeah. If we dive too much into it, because we could spend 2 hours just trying to talk about Vince, Jim Crockett, the NWA, and how all of that plays into each other, and Ted Turner and the mix. And it's like, it's too much. It's just too much. The reason why we're saying that is too much is that some of the things that happen on this card are out of the complicated changes in management that is happening in WCW, Jim Crockett Promotions, NWA, whichever one it decides to call itself today.
Well, the as you're watching the show, the branding on everything is clearly NWA. That's what's on the ring apron. That's what all of the belts are referred to as NWA titles. So I think maybe for ease of reference, if not necessarily historical accuracy, I'm probably just going to refer to it as an NWA thing throughout here.
It is still technically an NWA show, so we will stick with the NWA vernacular for now with this. But as for some background as what's happening in wrestling in general, this happens a month and a half before WrestleMania 5, which is a huge WrestleMania, as that's where the building up tension between Hulk Hogan and Macho Man finally blows out in the main event. And that's being held in Atlantic City on the boardwalk. And for attendance comparison, 18,946 folks attended WrestleMania 5.
Wow.
Compared to the 8,000. And I'm sure that was a sellout for the UIC Pavilion. So it's going to be easier to talk about some of the craziness that happens in this show. Mainly the one match of the Midnight Express versus the Midnight Express. And that match is simply because of all the chaos that is happening in the back of WCW, NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions, whichever one it decides to be today.
Yeah, I'll tell. I have 2 books on my shelf actually that sort of kind of talk about some of this stuff. They're both by Tim Hornbaker actually. One is called National Wrestling Alliance: The Untold Story of the Monopoly That Strangled Professional Wrestling. So it's kind of wearing its biases on its sleeve there a little bit. And then the other one is Death of the Territories: Expansion, Betrayal, and the War That Changed Pro Wrestling Forever. And those 2 books together kind of really tell the story of, the NWA, what it meant to wrestling, the era of the territories, and then sort of how all of that changed. And especially right around this time, there was just a tremendous amount of churn and turmoil that leads to some of these weird matches on this card.
This card also features almost every single wrestler that is signed to Jim Crockett Promotions, WCW, at the time. The only folks that aren't on it are like Dusty Rhodes, Ron Simmons is there. That's just about it.
Damn.
Just about everybody else is on the card on this show. So, and it's very evident when you look at the first match, features a jobber. Yeah, so I say let's just get into it, because
okay.
The show is very weird itself in its presentation, as it seems like what we're actually watching is a VHS, a rip of the VHS, which I think everything on Peacock is, of the event. And so that means that the opening segment with Jim Ross and Magnum TA definitely seems like it was taped after. There's weird things happening in the background. We can see wrestling happening as they're recording it. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, and there's also they throw to a video preview of the event we're about to watch during that opening commentary section, which is kind of a weird thing. It's like, hey, here's the video highlights that you're about to see that, in theory would have been in the future if it were actually recorded live. So
right, that part really confused me, because I couldn't tell, like, was that actual footage from the event just from different camera angles, or was that footage of every wrestler just in different times? And like the opening of the show is very long. It takes a while before we get to the first bell. It does feature some sweet synth music. I was digging it.
I thought you would like that. Are you gonna sample any of that for the theme song?
Not yet. Maybe.
I'm gonna check the copyright on that. Yeah. So the very first thing that I wrote down is the promo with Michael P.S. Hayes. He's got his trader's flag robe on, from the Freebirds. The audio is terrible. It's sort of like the mics weren't in the right place or something. I don't know. It's like the first 5 or 6 episodes of this podcast.
I mean, he is hyped up and he's all over the place. He can't get close. He's not staying close enough to the microphone. And so like, it's just like, this is going to be a great event. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. I'm gonna fight the Russian assassin. I'm gonna beat him. And then we also got Lex Luger versus Barry Windham,
right?
And we got blah, 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 blah. And like, oh
yeah, he's sort of like doing a promo for his own match a little bit, but it's mostly for the whole event. Like he's just thrilled to be there, really.
Yeah, he's fired up.
he was definitely in the Bolivian marching powder before this match is what it sounds like.
Most
to me.
likely, most likely.
I haven't seen that much Freebirds. I think the most exposure I had to the Freebirds is when they have that wrestling match at the beginning of Highlander, and Connor McLeod goes to the Madison Square Garden, and anyway, and so I don't know if the whole
he was in the gimmick battle royal that we recently watched too, even though he's not a gimmick,
right? And I remember him from sort of the Doc Hendricks days where he was mostly like whatever he was supposed to be. But I guess what I'm trying to get around to is the rhyming in his promos, is that like a trademark thing of his, or is this just something that
I believe
cocaine told him to do at this show?
The rhyming is definitely something that the Freebirds did in their promos.
Oh, okay. It's really terrible. Like,
yes, it is.
Like the rhymes aren't even close most of the time.
But what kind of education do you think they offer on Bad Street USA?
It's not good.
The schools can't be good in that area if it's called Bad Street USA. There's no way,
There's no property tax base on Bad Street USA.
No. Yeah. Well, everybody rents. It's nobody owns that property. It's all a bunch of slumlords. Whatever.
Yeah, our public school system has failed yet another bright student like Michael P.S. Hayes. It's too bad.
Yeah.
So anyway, he did pick up enough patriotism in his meager school education to wrestle the Russian Assassin. This is Russian Assassin number one. With Paul Jones as his manager. I like that when they introduced the Russian Assassin, they give his weight in kilos. That made me laugh.
Well, it sticks with everything. He probably is like also knows how many hectares it is from his house to the ring as well. So
I'd say he looks pretty cool for a jobber, honestly. He's got a kind of bitchin' outfit with the Russian bear and the hammer and sickle and the red and yellow of the Soviet flag. The Soviet Union was still a thing, right? This is what it is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's the very end. It's the very end of it, but it's still a thing.
So, and I also noted that guys in masks always lost in the 80s. Like,
every jobber's in a mask, and it's because they don't want you to realize that like the same guy's fighting like 10 times in a night.
They're all the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah.
He's been around. He's actually a Highlander. He's been around since the 1400s. And he just jobs.
Yeah.
So anything you want to talk about for this match?
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty damn long.
Jesus, for a match against a jobber to go 16 minutes. Like, this match was forever. Though Michael Hayes reminded me a lot of Shawn Michaels in this match, the way he moves, his frame. Though Michael Hayes is 27 at this point, and Jim Ross points it out, I thought he looked 37. I guess back then everybody looked older. Like, life was just harder, I guess, and everybody looked older.
I think in 1989, like, life expectancy was 45, so he's practically dead here.
Right, because I mean, like, Ric Flair looks old, and he's not at this point. And so they're not really doing a lot of technical work, and I guess it's because it's Assassin number one is just a jobber. His name is David Sheldon, is his real name.
Yeah.
And he fights under like 10 different aliases in his career. This is one of them. And he's just in like this giant stable that I can't remember the guy's name formed. It doesn't matter. It's not really referenced much in this show. It doesn't really come up.
It seems like David Sheldon's main gimmick was the Angel of Death. That was kind of the one that he had the longest and had the most success with. So
these guys should not have been given more than 10 minutes of work,
No.
and they're out there for 16, and it's just, why is this match still happening? Like,
it's really long.
And then I realized that they're trying to do like a 2.5 hour show, and they don't have any more people on their roster that can come out and fight. Like, I was all planning to be like, well, why don't they have Ron Simmons come out and fight somebody? Or why don't they have to come out? And it's like, there is no alternative for people to come out. Because I think
everybody's working tonight.
Right, because I think Dusty Rhodes is hurt, and like there's weirdness because he was also the booker of Jim Crockett Promotions until this point, and he just got canned from that job, and he's not happy about it. So that also might be why he's not on the card, and it's weird. But Michael Hayes lands a DDT, pins him, and like out of nowhere, it's like they're just like slugging away and doing things, not very interesting, and then suddenly a DDT and a pin, and it's over.
Well, and I think that's actually something that we'll probably mention, I don't know, 6-7 more times in this show, is the pins, the finishes just come out of nowhere. Like they have a real kind of back and forth going. There's a bunch of sort of false finishes. And then, Russian Assassin drops down for the backdrop too early. And while his head is down, Hayes grabs it and DDTs him. And that's the end of that. And he just takes off. So it's not a terrible match. I mean, I'd say it's actually pretty emblematic, maybe, of kind of a low level card match from this time and this promotion. So it's
given us the real concept that this show is rough on the edges.
Yeah.
it's very rough. The lighting's weird. The lighting's bad. The camera angles are weird. The crowd is fired up and hot. It's just it's a Chicago crowd. So we keep finding these events that happened in Chicago, and every single time it's like everybody is it's just like an insanitarium there going on.
Chicago's always ready to get it on. So yeah. And the other, it is sort of a low budget show, which is weird, like given the quality and the caliber of the talent that's in this thing. These are world-class guys, but like, and the other thing is it's always a trip to see like what the ring barrier looks like in the old days,
Yeah.
So at a certain point, there's like the steel like gates, things like the barriers, like they put
the
up
bicycle,
the bicycle rack looking things. But that's not even that here. It's like two horizontal bars.
Yeah.
And I don't even think they're bolted to the floor because a few times people hit them and they just kind of like roll around.
Yeah. They're just kind of like really crappy looking, like little like blue fencing. And like I will say that when it's time for the big show, Starcade, they wrap them in Christmas lights.
Oh, thank God for that.
So that really adds a lot of class and pop to the presentation of the show.
Class. All right, so let's leave Michael P.S. Hayes and the Russian Assassin and get on to match number 2, and that is Sting versus Hacksaw Butch Reed.
I was looking forward to this match.
Yeah.
Oh, there was a Ricky Steamboat promo.
Oh, I missed it. Right, with his baby.
This match. Yeah, he's got like his kid with him, and his kid's trying to grab the microphone during the whole thing.
It was
and
cute.
Like it was. Ricky Steamboat's got this like delivery of his promos. It's very similar to like Jake the Snake. He just like talks and he's really low key but like he talks like Hulk Hogan in it, and he's like, I've been saying my prayers, I've been taking my vitamins. And I know Ric Flair is an honorable opponent, and he's going to be a tough opponent for me tonight. But my dream is to win the NWA World Championship. And I'm going to win it for my child.
That's an amazing recreation, Rich. Thank you for that.
I was like, how did Ricky Steamboat get any? Like, thank God his wrestling is amazing to make up for his promo style.
Well, that's why he has his wife and his kid in all his promos. It's like, look over here, look over here.
It's like a politician.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like running for office.
And he's got a fat little, chubby baby in a karate gi, like with a headband and stuff. So
yeah, he dresses his kid just like him, and like it's like it might be like the most exploitative thing that I've seen in wrestling while we're doing this project, and it's him just rolling out his kid as mini me to get him over. Like, wow.
Yeah. If it were anybody other than Ricky Steamboat, I probably wouldn't put up with it. But
no, I would. God. Get out of here.
I would also let Tito Santana get away with it. Does
Tito have kids? We should find out.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Does. They're probably our age, honestly.
Yeah, you're probably right.
We could be Facebook friends with Tito Santana's kids.
That'd be awesome.
And then we get invited to an event at Tito Santana's house.
Maybe to like his like granddaughter's quinceañera or something like that. That'd be awesome.
And then we meet Tito Santana. Okay. New business plan. Yeah.
Here we go. This is the plan. New strategy. Here we go.
It's happening. All right. So then after Ricky Steamboat plays the chubby baby card, we get to our next match, which is Sting versus Hacksaw Butch Reed. And we just lost Hacksaw Butch Reed last year, I think. So
yeah,
sorry to see him go. Teddy Long is referee in this one, playa. So that's exciting.
He doesn't make the Undertaker come out and fight anyone though.
Yeah. He's got some time yet. Yeah. And you better settle in for another long match because this is like 20 minutes.
Yeah, this was another long one, but it was significantly in better quality than the first match because it's Sting and Butch Reed. Both of these guys look jacked.
Oh my God. They're huge.
And Sting has got this Brian Bosworth-esque flat top and ducktail haircut.
Oh, can we?
That is, it's quintessential 80s, south of the Mason-Dixon line haircut.
It's awful. Well, the flat top is fine. It's that ducktail, rat tail thing. Like, I know that fashion trends are circular, but if we could do something to make sure that never ever comes back, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I think step one's going to be like destroying the tape of this show.
Yeah. Oh, that's too bad.
Jim Ross keeps referring to Butch Reed's right hand as a big soup bone. At least 2 or 3 times he calls it. And with that big soup bone of a right hand, he clubs on Sting like, oh God.
I'm not sure how to feel about that. Is that?
Yeah, it felt weird, but I guess there isn't really anything wrong with it.
I do like soup.
Yeah, I don't, but that's okay.
Who doesn't like soup? What's wrong with you?
But it was Magnum TA that was dropping the racist lines in this one.
Yeah.
There was a whole lot of referencing of how Hiro Matsuda, who is the Butch Reed's manager, because of his Asian descent, knows all the pressure points. But he was not saying because he is Asian, but because of another word. And Jim Ross is just letting it float by. I mean, it's the 80s, so I wouldn't expect it, but like, whatever. Jim Ross at least isn't also using it too, but
yeah. Well, he's got his soup bone metaphor he can go back to.
Yeah, he can just pound it on the soup bone. Magnum TA's got his
took the soup bone to the pressure point.
This has to be early in Magnum TA doing commentary because he's pretty god awful.
Yeah, he's not good.
Magnum TA keeps says that like, oh, he's setting him up, he's getting him ready, but I don't know what he's getting them ready for. Like, what?
A big night out? Like what? Like,
right?
Maybe hold off if you don't know what you're going to say.
There's a huge style difference between the first match and this match too, because Sting is so fast and he's flipping and he's reversing and he's jumping, but like Butch Reed is a big muscle guy, so it's a really great like clash of 2 different styles of wrestling.
Yeah, I wrote down that Sting is really agile for such a big guy. And I also, this is sort of peak Sting, I would say. He looks like a baby, first of all. I haven't really seen that much of him from this era because I wasn't as much of a WCW fan as you were. But I really like the colorful tights and the face paint. And I much prefer that to the black and white Undertaker ripoff that he did later. But I would say Sting kind of heals it up a little bit in this one. He's biting on Butch's soup bone hand at one point.
Oh yeah, that was good.
And the ref gets distracted. He's like, anytime the ref gets distracted, he's like using his legs on the ropes. It's the Hulk Hogan school of acting like a heel even when you're the babyface.
Yeah, like it's like the crowd forgives him because I mean Sting is so fucking cool. He's in the neon pants and he's got the flat top and the ducktail and the face paint. It's interesting. Scorpion. He's also billed as from Venice Beach, just like Hulk Hogan.
Interesting.
So, though I wonder if Sting is actually from there. I doubt he is, but
Sting gets his comeback after getting kind of beaten down for a little bit, but you can tell Butch is a little blown up here towards the end of the match. There's a really weak ass kick out where it's supposed to be one of those deals where he kind of like throws Sting up in the air with both arms, but he barely moves him. And after watching that training video with Matsuda, I was kind of surprised. I'm like, man, I thought this guy would have cardio for days, but maybe it's just an off night. I couldn't do a tenth of that, so I'm not.
Was this a little early in Butch Reed? Like, how early was Butch Reed? Like,
are you still googling Sting, or do you want?
Sting was from Omaha, Nebraska.
Pretty far from Venice Beach.
So he's billed from 3 different places throughout his career. He's billed from Venice Beach, he's billed from Charlotte, North Carolina, and he's billed from Your Nightmares.
My nightmares? How do you know? Butch Reed actually started wrestling in 1978.
Yeah, so he's a little bit older than Ron Simmons, but not much. So
I was 1. So he would have been, 11 years into his pro career here.
Yeah.
So anyway, this one has another real quick finish. Butch tries a pin with his legs on the rope, and then Teddy breaks it up, playa, and Sting just kind of flips him over and gets the pin.
Yeah, it was bang, bang.
Yeah,
wrap it up.
It was weird. There's some good moves in this one. I liked this match, actually. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a little long, but I enjoyed it. And like once I got used to the pace because of how long that first match was, I didn't notice how long this match was.
Yeah, that's a good point. So after that first match, I kind of looked at Wikipedia and I'm like, okay, what's the runtime on these other matches? And I kind of noticed that, they're all sort of in the same territory. So I'm just going to have to adjust my expectations a little bit here. So,
yeah, I mean, we've gotten so used to WrestleMania matches, like WWF matches. They're going 3-4 minutes for the most part, maybe up to 10 if it's an Intercontinental Championship match.
Yeah.
So you have a WrestleMania card with 8 or 9 matches. So what the Wrestling Classic in '85 that we watched, that was 2.5 hours long, and there was a 16-man tournament in it. So
plus a main event,
right? So that gives you an idea of this the contrasting styles that were happening between the two wrestling promotions.
Yeah, and this one has a section in the middle where Butch is kind of grinding down Sting in a chin lock and sort of taking him down to the mat, and it just kind of grows on and on and on and on, and that is definitely a style difference from the WWF stuff. So after the bell, Butch attacks while Sting's music is still playing, and that one's over then.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't quite understand why he attacked Sting like that, but I guess he's a bad guy.
Well, I think he thought he was getting the pin, right? There's a couple matches like that here where one guy thinks he's getting the pin, but it's actually the other guy. And so what I'm learning from this is that the refs are very sneaky.
Don't trust them.
They'll just count on you. Yeah, they don't even care.
They'll count. So, they won't tell you why they're counting.
or who they're counting for.
Right.
So we get a Paulie Dangerously promo after this. He is super skinny. He's got a terrible, terrible mullet. It's 1989. We'll forgive both of those things, I guess.
He's such a baby here.
He's so young. He's crazy. I like him though. I mean, I still really enjoy Paul Heyman in WWE today.
He gives a great promo. It's so good. He's great eye contact right on the camera, and it's he's fully into character and just has this energy that just draws you in, that makes you can't look away from his promo.
Yeah, he must have just come out of the womb like that or something. I don't know. He just seems to be a natural on the
Mr.
mic.
Charisma here.
So that leads us into the very confusing Midnight Express versus the original Midnight Express. So the Midnight Express here is Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane with Jim Cornette versus the original Midnight Express, which is Jack Victory and Randy Rose with Paulie Dangerously. And this is a loser leaves the NWA match.
This is the match that shows the conflict that is happening backstage so much. We're going to go into the story of the Midnight Express a little bit. This is a very cut and dry. This isn't Jim Cornette's 2-hour biography of the Midnight Express. This is just a straight up, just this is what went on. So Dennis Condrey and Randy Rose formed the Midnight Express. Condrey then left for Mid-South Wrestling. And while there, Condrey formed a Midnight Express with Bobby Eaton and Jim Cornette. Condrey then leaves to go back to Jim Crockett Promotion. Stan Lane replaces him with Bobby Eaton. So Stan Lane and Bobby Eaton are now the Midnight Express. Condrey reunites with Randy Rose, and forms another Midnight Express with Paulie Dangerously. So now we have 2 Midnight Expresses. But right before this match, Dusty Rhodes gets replaced as Booker, and Dennis Condrey doesn't like the person that is replacing him, and there's a lot of tension between them, or as they call heat between them, but it's real heat. It's legit heat. So Condrey quits right before the match. And so he gets replaced with Jack Victory, who is a jobber, also known as Russian Assassin number 2. So now we have the Midnight Express versus the original Midnight Express, but it's not the original Midnight Express anymore because Dennis Condrey has left again. I don't even know. I guess they needed to keep this match on the card just because it was big time, and they were actually using the loser leaves town thing to cover the real life reasoning of Dennis Condrey leaving, but he left before the match.
Oh, that's fascinating.
I guess I'll spoil the victory, the ending here, that Jim Cornette's Midnight Express wins the match, but Jack Victory doesn't leave the NWA.
What?
Now I do believe Paul E leaves, and so does Randy Rose. But the stakes suddenly are like completely undercut in this match because the guy that's really the center of all the controversy is Dennis Condrey, and he's already gone.
And of course, in the pre-match promos and then during the commentary on this one, they're making a big deal about how the Midnight Express have trained and they've planned to face Dennis Condrey, and then this swap for the Russian Assassin number 2 / Jack Victory / Complete Rando is going to mess up their plans, and they're going to have to adjust their game plan and all this stuff. And so that sort of becomes part of the story. But you can sort of tell even without reading all the stuff going on that was kind of a half-assed explanation pasted onto something else that's going on for this thing here.
Right. Like Paulie in that promo says that he's brought in Jack Victory as extra muscle. That Dennis was not going to be strong enough to pull this out. So he just wants to make sure that Jim Cornette and his Midnight Express has to leave. So he brings in the extra muscle of Jack Victory to fight the match.
Yeah. So this is still a fun match, I got to say. I mean, there's a lot of shenanigans between Cornette and Paulie Dangerously. Cornette's wearing some kind of red superhero getup. He looks like the greatest American hero. He's waving his tennis racket around like a maniac. I wrote manager fight with an exclamation point because they actually get into it at one point. It was kind of fun. And then Cornette makes a hot tag to Stan because he's out of his depth there.
This match for a gimmick 6-man tag was actually really enjoyable. I felt there was just the right amount of the managers being in the ring to the actual like wrestlers being in the ring and really doing work. All the guys really did a great job working in this match too, and especially Bobby Eaton. Bobby Eaton is always a pleasure to watch. Even his later stuff where he's practically a jobber in WCW, he's great at putting other people over. He's great at bumping. He's a good mover. He's surprisingly agile for his size.
Yeah, he's a big dude. My main complaint for this one, first of all, Randy and Jack are both ugly AF. No offense to them, but they are not people who should be on television, probably. And it's also really confusing that one of those guys, I'm not going to remember which one, is wearing the exact same color trunks as the other Midnight Express. So there's 3 guys with sort of the same like build and hair and trunks. And I honestly, there was a few times where I kind of couldn't tell what the hell was going on.
Right. See, that would have been the gimmick of this match if Dennis Condrey hadn't left and Jack Victory came in. So Jack Victory is wearing his normal wrestling gear, and Randy Rose is also wearing his normal Midnight Express gear. And then Jim Cornette's Midnight Express is also wearing their standard gear. So it would have made sense to you if it had still been Dennis Condrey also wearing the Midnight Express gear, because then it would have looked like 2 teams that are both fighting for the identity. Like if there was 2 different New York Yankees, both of them are going to wear pinstripes to the game, and because they're the Yankees. And I think that would have been what they were going for here, but
but it didn't work out that way.
No.
I mean, I guess one of my question is, I didn't read up on this like you did, but when did that change happen? Because, like, was it like that week or something that they didn't have time to sort of adjust? Like,
I'm not quite sure, but it had to happen very soon.
yeah,
For them to have to like rush him in and just be like, all right, get in there, Russian assassin number 2, take off your mask
yeah.
and just go by another name. It had to be pretty recent.
The crowd is super into this match. The crowd does not like Paulie dangerously at all. There's a Paulie sucks chant. There's a lot of middle fingers waving around. There's a dude in the second row who's wearing a ski mask through the entire thing, which is very distracting and a little disturbing.
It is February in Chicago.
I guess.
So.
How cold is it in that arena, though?
During this match, Jim Ross, like he starts really diving into the backgrounds of all the wrestlers, because I mean he's got 20 minutes per match basically to talk. So like he talks about how Stan Lane is from Myrtle Beach, and he informs us that Stan Lane and Vanna White may be friends because Vanna White is also from Myrtle Beach and approximately the same age. So he's completely just speculating at this point. Like, is he out of things to talk about? Like, he's just speculating that Stan Lane and Vanna White are friends. I don't understand what's happening there. There's an amazing breakdown in the action of this match where suddenly, like, all 6 men are just going at it near the end, and it's perfectly timed. And then out of nowhere, the win happens.
Same as the other ones. The ending of this one is complete chaos, and it's actually it's good chaos though. It's a lot of fun. It's not like crap chaos where you can't tell what's going on. You know, it's clearly put together and planned out, so that the story doesn't get lost in the mess.
Right, and timed perfectly for it too. Like it happens near the end. And it just is, and it triggers perfectly. It's just suddenly everybody's in the ring and everybody's fighting and it's spilling out everywhere. And then suddenly there's a double teamed face buster spike thing and the win. They roll them up to win. So I guess Randy Rose has got to go, and Jack Victory just goes about his life.
So long, guys. You can back to, maybe Randy can become Russian Assassin number 3.
Maybe.
All right. So we leave the Midnight versus the Midnight. We had a classic Ric Flair promo next. He's doing all his Ric Flair stuff. I could watch those 1 million times and never get tired of it.
Did he mention being Space Mountain in this promo?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah. Everybody wants to go on the ride, you know, so he's Space Mountain. That's one of my favorite things with Ric Flair, that he ever says that I'm Space Mountain. Woo! Like, oh, so good. Like,
it's like just close enough to filthy that you can say it on TV and not get censored, right?
Right. And he's just like, he always sounds like he's almost unhinged, but he just has a hair of control still.
Yeah, he's masterful. I think top 5 promo guys in the business, I think.
For sure.
All right, so we leave that classic Ric Flair promo and we get into this next match, which is a barn burner. This is
oh my God.
This is a forgotten classic. I didn't know this match was here. Of course, the Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat gets all the attention from this particular match, but holy shit, you guys.
Right. We started watching wrestling and a wrestling match broke out.
Yeah. Crazy.
Kind of thing.
Who'd have guessed? So this is Mike Rotunda, who we saw in WrestleMania 1, actually, with the U.S. Express, him and Barry Windham. Later, of course, Mike Rotunda is IRS in the WWF. So Mike Rotunda versus Rick Steiner, and Scott Steiner is in Rick's corner. This is the NWA World Television Championship match. So right off, you can kind of guess this one's going to be a bit of a shoot. Both of these guys have amateur cred. Rotunda played football and wrestled for Syracuse. He was a starting tackle on the football team. He was a starting heavyweight on the wrestling team. He's like, again, a legit amateur wrestler, athlete, all around stud.
Jim Ross also points out to us that Mike Rotunda was a finalist at the punt pass kick competition in the NFL at one point. Out of like all of his like credentials, that's the one that JR really, really focuses in on, is that he can punt, pass, and kick.
Oh, hey, that's impressive. He's a triple threat.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even sure where to start because this shit is amazing. There's an old lady in the front row who's losing her goddamn mind throughout this match. Both of these guys are like covered in sweat almost immediately, and you can tell there's like an actual athletic contest going on here.
Yeah, they're really fighting. They're really locked up. They're really shooting. They're really going for it. And you can even see that they're really trying to keep it to wrestling, because at one point they break and Steiner has a perfect opening to punch Rotunda, and he doesn't. You can see him pull the punch back because he wants to keep it as a wrestling match, and that really let you know where this match was going, and that they were going to wrestle it out, and they're going to fight, and they're going to do it.
Yeah, and I imagine that the opportunities for these guys to do that sort of thing, we're sort of limited. We're kind of past the early days of the NWA, and in the 60s and 70s, when there was sort of the expectation that everybody coming in would sort of have some sort of amateur, legitimate wrestling credentials. Like we're getting farther and farther away from that. So the number of people on the roster who could engage with them in this sort of contest is more and more limited. So they have the opportunity here, and they freaking go for it, and we're all luckier for the fact that they did.
Yeah, because these are two guys that really I only have seen under the WWF flag, and the WWF and anything that I've watched never let Rick Steiner wrestle like this, and definitely never let Mike Rotunda / IRS perform like this. Like, if IRS wrestled like this, oh my God, he would have been my favorite.
Oh yeah, he would have been my favorite wrestler of the 90s. Like, it's crazy. And we actually, in I think one of the blog posts about I can't remember which WrestleMania it was, where he was with Ted DiBiase, obviously, we actually did sort of call out that, yeah, he really knows what he's doing, and you can tell he's very smooth worker, really lays his shit in. But again, it's nothing like what we've got here.
These guys are hitting each other. They are holding each other. They are stretching each other. They are pushing each other to the limits. And like you mentioned, they're sweating, and they are coated in sweat because this is real. We're watching something real. Like, I didn't take a lot of notes on this match just because I suddenly realized about 30 seconds in that I was watching a real wrestling match. I was watching two guys really try to fight and really try to do it. And it's something that we don't see ever.
Yeah. It's funny, the sweating thing is actually noticeable. Like, I mean, obviously it's a physical sport, wrestlers get sweaty, but like there's a difference, I think, between, sort of usual like performing sweat and like you said, sort of the head to toe full body exertion that these guys are going through. So
right.
I like you, I didn't take a whole lot of notes on like individual moves. Rotunda nearly takes Rick's head off with a clothesline at one point. That's one of the few like, pro wrestling moves that we see in this thing. Steiner gets some color at one point. He's bleeding. He's not bleeding that much. He'll be fine.
I don't even know what caused it.
I don't either. I didn't see it.
I never saw an opportunity for him to blade, I don't think. And if he did blade himself, man, was he good at hiding it?
Maybe he gets it the hard way. Who knows?
Near the end, the sleeper hold that Rick puts on Mike Rotunda is very convincing looking.
Yeah, I wondered about that, actually.
And Mike is trying to wrestle out of it, and Steiner like suddenly breaks it, pushes him, and bounces his head off the turnbuckle. Like, he hits that corner hard, and then slaps it back into him off the rebound, and then goes down, and like Rotunda's unconscious. Like,
yeah.
If he's probably not really unconscious, it's probably a work, but boy did he sell it.
Well, and you could totally buy it too, because they were, like you said, they're going at it. This one,
I mean, if anything, he's exhausted.
Yeah. I was tired just watching it. I needed a nap after I watched this, so I had to sponge off myself. Anyway, so this one kind of also has sort of a bullshit ending to it. Steiner gets his chokehold on Rotunda, but Rick's shoulders are on the mat, so like Mike's laying on top of him, and he's kind of got him in like a rear naked choke kind of thing, and so the ref counts, but he's counting actually Rick's shoulders. And so the bell rings. Rick thinks he's won, but in reality, Mike Rotunda pinned Rick with his own back, I guess, which is that a move?
Yeah. I mean, there was a little bit of like distraction too that was happening because like Kevin Sullivan gets on the microphone. So this was actually one of the moments where I felt like the play-by-play commentary that we were hearing was possibly put in later, because JR is talking about Rick Steiner loving his dog and stuff like that. And the moment JR finishes saying that, Kevin Sullivan is on the PA system in the arena going, "I know your dog's in the back in the locker room, Rick. I hope nothing happens to him."
Oh, yeah.
And like, because like Kevin Sullivan is an evil bastard.
Who would threaten a man's dog?
Right. And so like Rick is trying to tell his brother to go back and try to deal with it. And like it ends up being like almost no influence on the match, but it was weird. And it was a weird thing to throw in there during a match that definitely like these guys were working and like keeping it legit. And then suddenly like evil Kevin Sullivan pipes in about the guy's dog.
Yeah, that's not cool, Kevin. I'm super glad that we got this match here. Again, I didn't really have any idea what to expect once it started, but like, man, it's a sleeper. If you like actual wrestling, if you like wrestling and stuff that's cool, like this is a match.
Yeah, this match both sent us tumbling into the rabbit hole of looking for shoot wrestling on YouTube.
Yeah. And Mike Rotunda especially has a bunch of good ones out there. There's a sort of classic one I've seen a few times from WCW, I guess mid-90s, right? Or early 90s.
Yeah, it's actually not long after this event. He's still in Varsity Club and stuff like that. And he's captain at this point. He's somehow a ship captain. That's his thing.
Right,
at this
Captain
point.
Mike Rotunda. They kept calling him that.
Right. So this is his like yachting sporty moment, and he is fighting Death Row.
Death Row, yeah.
And in the middle of the match, Death Row doesn't sell, and so Mike just starts stretching him out, twisting him up.
Yeah, it's fascinating to watch actually, and maybe this is a good one we can add to our media page. But he like grabs him and kind of takes him down and stretches him out. And you can kind of see him talking to Death Row, right? Like basically like get your shit together, quit messing around. And he gets back up, and then Death Row just kind of keeps at it. And so he takes him down a second time, and he wraps him up, and you can hear him go, "Damn!" Or no,
you can hear Death Row going, "Jesus, man, shit!" Like, like he's twisting him up into pretzels.
Like I had it coming. So
yeah, and Death Row is like much bigger.
Oh, he's very large
of a guy, and Mike Rotunda is just like, "I don't care. I'm gonna fuck you up. You're going down."
Yeah, he could have given up another 50 pounds, and he still would have beaten that guy's ass. So, all right. So, yeah, I don't know that Mike Rotunda is not going to bump Tito Santana off of my all-time fan club list here, but like, I'm a fan.
He moved up. He moved up a lot in my book. Watching this match, I never knew. I honestly didn't know until I watched that match, because I never thought much of his work as IRS and stuff. And then suddenly we see this match where he's allowed to work and he really does his thing. And my jaw was on the floor, and like I couldn't stop watching. I rewound it a couple times, and I'm probably going to watch it again.
All right. Well, not right now. Let's keep moving before people start tuning out. So next up, we've got Lex Luger against Mike Rotunda's old tag team partner, Barry Windham. And Barry is here with Hiro Matsuda as his manager. This is the NWA United States Championship match. So I don't know. What do you want to say about this one?
I noted that it looked like two bull elks locking antlers at the start of this match. Like they basically are just like pushing each other around, and like Luger is working like crazy. He's just like moving around. He's overselling a little bit. He's bouncing around everywhere. And this is a huge guy. But he's still like really aggressively bouncing around. And Barry just like weathers the storm through the whole match. He's just like, Luger's is coming at him full speed. Jim Ross keeps calling him the package, which was cracking me up. Luger also no-sells a back body drop, which was weird.
Yeah.
But then also very impressive, because like he just like hits the mat with his back, and it's like suddenly he's standing. Like I don't know what he did. Like it was so quick for him to get up. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, he bounced right up. I didn't know
Yeah.
I saw that one too. I don't know.
Barry Windham's hand legit gets jacked.
Yeah.
Like he's bleeding from his hand. And like there's all these cuts along it, and like he may have actually like broke his hand in the spot where like he went to punch Luger and hit the ring post instead. That did not seem like a work.
No, he really did look legitimately injured, and the way he's like cradling it too through some of the match, I'm like, man, it made me a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, I couldn't tell how much of that was selling and how much of that was like legit injury.
Yeah, this is a decent match. I think I was still catching my breath a little bit, honestly, after the previous match.
Yeah.
So I maybe didn't pay as close attention as I should have. But this one's got another total BS ending. So Windham like German suplexes Luger, and the ref starts counting. Both men's shoulders are down when the ref starts counting. So Lex raises his shoulder at 2, and then Windham raises his shoulder like just a half second later. But by then the ref has counted 3 on Windham's shoulder. So yeah, really strange pin.
These are NWA finishes,
Yeah,
man. You got to get used to them. I guess.
Yeah. But Lex gets the belt here, and after the bell, Windham, even though his hand is all jacked up, still manages to nail Lex with a really nasty pile driver.
Yeah.
Any other moments from this one that you wanted to call out?
The only thing I can really think of is that this match looked the most like a WWF match of all the matches that are on this card. Like, it was just 2 big hulking guys pushing at each other for a couple minutes.
Yeah. So we get a little promo with Mike Rotunda after here. He's back in the locker room. He's celebrating his win. He actually messes up the name of the belt that he just won. I don't know if you caught that. He starts to say the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, but the one that he just won was the World Television Championship. So he corrects himself. That made me laugh a little bit.
He's about to announce himself the World Heavyweight Champion. He's like, I'm now the World Television Champion. Yeah.
That made me laugh a little bit. So
yeah.
And from there, we move into the big tag team championship match for this one. So we've got the Road Warriors, Hawk and Animal, with Paul Ellering. And of course, Hawk and Animal and the Road Warriors, like, just absolutely massive with the NWA audiences. You know, there's a term, you know, the Road Warrior pop from a crowd when those guys show up. Like, they just were over in a way that I don't know if anybody was really, very few.
I don't think any tag team had ever been over as much as they have.
Crazy.
They're the Hulk Hogan of tag teams.
Yeah. And of course, you know, when they came over to the WWF as the Legion of Doom, they just kind of messed up their whole thing and really, they didn't quite bury them. They got quite a push, you know, they got a lot of attention, but they just never used them in the same effective way.
Yeah. Did you notice that at one point the crowd is chanting LOD?
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about.
I didn't understand that either. Like, Road Warriors hadn't been in WWF yet, I don't think.
No.
As the Legion of Doom. I don't think this was like a bounce back for them or anything. So I just thought that was really interesting that the crowd is chanting Legion of Doom at them.
Well, let's see what the internet has to say here. Maybe it was like a name that they gave their fans or something like that.
Yeah, possibly. The Road Warriors are followed by their Legion of Doom.
So they performed under the name Road Warriors in the AWA, the NWA, and WCW. Right, we know that.
Live research happening right before your ears, ladies and gentlemen.
This is what the edit button is for. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay, I'll read. This is what the Wikipedia thing says. Georgia Championship Wrestling, this is in the early 80s, 83, 84. They had some rapid success, and then they dumped Paul Ellering as a manager, claiming they did not need him. And then that was short-lived, as in early 1984, they and Precious Paul Ellering formed a stable called the Legion of Doom in the NWA's Georgia Championship Wrestling territory. The group consisted of the Road Warriors, Jake the Snake Roberts, and the Spoiler, Donald Delbert Jardine. Short-lived, and the name Legion of Doom soon referred only to the Road Warriors and Ellering, with either name used interchangeably throughout their career. So there you go.
Interesting.
Yeah, so they actually were kind of called the Legion of Doom, sort of as a throwback to that earlier stable that they had.
This is a very educated Chicago crowd.
Oh my God, yeah, these guys have been with it for a long time. Anyway, so it's the Road Warriors up against Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Kevin Sullivan, dog hater, terrible person. This is for the NWA World Tag Team Championship match.
Dr. Death is a monster.
Oh my God, he's huge. him and Animal are just two absolute slabs of beef. And every time they get in the ring and like start bouncing off each other, I worried for the architecture of that place.
The moment where Dr. Death actually gets off his feet in a straight vertical jump and kicks Animal in the face is I had to pause it. I couldn't handle that moment.
There's some shocking stuff in this match. There's another shot later where they run Hawk into the ring post outside the ring, and the whole ring is like shimmying from side to side.
Yes.
It's like, holy crap, it's going to come down. I was so on the edge of my seat. I'm like, it's happening. It's happening.
Yeah, these teams just like beat the shit out of each other. And the Road Warriors, I mean, I hadn't seen too much of their stuff. I had seen a good portion of their WWF stuff, but their WWF stuff is fairly tame compared to the stuff that they're doing here. They were snug and they were hitting. And then like I sent you that one clip where like the Road Warriors just like pounding that guy's shit like brutally. This like they're trying to kill him, I think. And I can understand why the crowd loved them so much.
God,
they were stiff workers and they just beat the hell out of people.
Yeah, and they're gigantic. They're just unstoppable force. And I enjoyed this match. Actually, I enjoyed this was a lot of fun to watch. There's a few sort of botches here. There's a spot where Dr. Death tries to go up to the top rope, but kind of messes up his footing, so he ends up turning into this kind of weird little arm chop on Animal.
Yeah, he should not have been trying for that. That was not a good plan for the man that size.
He is way too large to do that one. So There's a really nice hot tag to Hawk at one point. He comes in and cleans house. The matchup is good because both of them have a monster guy, right? You've got Animal on the Road Warrior side, and you've got Dr. Death on the other side. And then you've got sort of a slimmer, more athletic guy, Hawk. And Kevin Sullivan's not that athletic.
And then you have Kevin Sullivan, right, who's just like like if Danny DeVito became a professional wrestler somehow, I think that would be Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, I don't know. This is just violence, honestly, start to finish.
Yeah,
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, this is the closest to UFC you're going to get in wrestling here at this point.
So this one has another weird finish. There's no doomsday device to end this match, and that's my only knock on this match. Is I love that finish. Yeah. So Dr. Death has Animal kind of pinned by the ropes. But he's like right under the rope. Like all he would have to do is like raise his pinky to touch the rope and, break it up. But for whatever reason, Dr. Death thinks he's getting the pin. Meanwhile, behind him, Hawk kind of does this jumping clothesline off the top rope on Kevin Sullivan. So the ref counts on Sullivan, but Dr. Death sort of can't really see what he's actually counting. Of course, he thinks he won yet again, but it's really the Road Warriors who got this one.
Right. But I mean, if you're paying attention in any of the least amount of bit here, the Road Warriors pin is the legal one because they're the pair that are the legal men in the ring.
Yeah. I don't know what Dr. Death was doing.
No, it was kind of a weird finish. I don't know if it was more confusing to the audience in person or what, but I mean, I had no problem keeping track of who the legal men were in this match, and it was pretty clear that it was, who was it, Hulk and Kevin Sullivan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. My main question was like, just what the hell does Dr. Death think he's doing over there? Because he's neither of those guys are legal. He's right under the ropes. The ref is nowhere near him while he's trying to do this pin, and he's also like doesn't really have him pinned. He's kind of like trying to push his shoulders. I don't know. It was weird.
It was a weird ending. Again,
another weird ending. Lots and lots of violence in this one.
Yeah, so like this event after that opening with Michael P.S. Hayes really steps it up and is very engaging.
Agreed. This is a lot of fun, and it really just kind of picks up steam, and it doesn't really let up until we get in, and not even, of course, when we get to the main event here, which is the reason that we started watching this in the first place, which is Ric Flair versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship match. So before the match, there's a good long recap of the Steamboat Flair feud. There's some clips from Clash of Champions and from another couple of shows. There's a really good promo Rick cuts on Ricky where they're in the ring together, and he's sort of making fun of Ricky's wife, like kind of browbeating him or being the one who wears the pants in the family. That was always kind of one of the things that they leveled on Ricky Steamboat, and Flair says, "Why don't you go home and help the missus with the dishes, pal?" And so Ricky slaps the shit out of him, and then they really get to fighting, and he tears Flair's clothes off, which is a move that we don't really see so much anymore.
No, but Flair was always good at, like, he always looked crazy because, like, his, like, chicken legs would be exposed suddenly, and, like, his pants are all torn, like he's missing one pant leg, and like, it was always a classic moment with Ric Flair when his, like, $5,000 suit gets ripped up.
Yeah. Well, and he always made such a big deal about how much his clothes cost, right? So it's appropriate that it's the first casualty.
Yeah, I had watched something that actually said that, like, so, like, all those, like, promos where Ric Flair is talking about the cost of his suit and where and the tailor that he went to get to the suit, that all of that was a shoot, that was legit. Like, that was an actual local business that he was plugging on the air about their tailoring and their suits. And I thought that was very fascinating and an interesting little thing.
I would go look at a tailor because Ric Flair recommended it, you know?
Hell yeah.
He was always
styling and profiling.
Yeah, he was always sharp, man. Anyway, so that video recap is actually quite a slugfest. That was more exciting than some WrestleMania matches we've seen. That was just the recap of the feud that gets them to this point. And then we get to the match itself, which, is one for the ages. So I don't know. Where do you want to start?
One, I mean, the entrance of Flair is magnificent. I was unaware that Ric Flair had been managed by Hiro Matsuda either. So again, another thing we're learning from this event was that
very educational.
Flair is in this amazing bedazzled red robe with silver trim and feathers, and he's got a harem of women with him ringside, and he brings a bouquet of roses and starts giving them all roses.
Yeah,
like it's so much. It's just so much Flair.
Yeah, it's great. And the contrast then with Ricky's entrance, which is very low key, you know, he's a family guy, right? He's got a fat baby with a karate outfit on. Like he's
a working man.
He's a working man. He's
fighting ninjas and he's working it
and talking real low key on his promos.
Right. Like, this is actually Ricky's, like, one of his first matches back to Jim Crockett Promotions NWA stuff. Like, he had been in WWF up until about now, and the heat that he built up with Flair was so quick. He just showed up, and it was just immediately like, I want a title match against Flair, and it was just a matter of weeks before they had this match. It was pretty crazy.
That's interesting, and it's a perfect matchup for them. I think, you know, they work in ways that really complement each other. I think every move, every reversal, every chop and shoulder block and clothesline here is just so crisp and clean and smart, and everything about this match, honestly, is incredible. Ricky chops Flair over the top rope backwards at one point, which is beautiful. Flair goes all the way to the floor, not just to the apron, and then he
does his front bump through the ropes. Right,
it's great.
Yeah.
And he comes up, he's really selling his exhaustion.
Flair, like, comes out with chops, and then Ricky just suddenly chops him right back. Like, he's not taking any of this shit from the fancy Flair, and it's like these, like, solid karate chops right to the chest, right on back, and, like, they're tight. They're very snug chops on both of them.
Yeah.
They get into the technical stuff pretty quickly, and the Dragon goes for a quick pin, and JR notes that the Dragon doesn't get paid by the hour. He goes for the win like 30 seconds into the match. There's this so much great selling on Flair's part as well. Ricky's grinding him in a headlock. I can hear Flair going, "Oh God, oh God." It's so good.
Yeah.
And they're, like, reversing each other, and they're twisting around, and, like, Ricky is so fast, and he moves from move to move, and, like, the moves don't seem like they would be related to each other. It's all very abstract, but yet there's a logical continuity to everything he's doing. I couldn't take my eyes off of this match at all for a second.
Yeah, when we watched the Wrestling Classic, we noted sort of the flow that Steamboat has in the ring. You know, it's one move right to the next, to the next, to the next, and there's just it's like the combo on Mortal Kombat or whatever. He just, like, gets right to it.
There's just something very modern about his work, and there's, like, so, like, we saw Sting, which is definitely, like, what's to come, but then Ricky Steamboat, even though he's a veteran at this point, he still looks and is wrestling next generation of style of wrestling.
Yeah, I feel like, some of the current wrestlers actually could learn a lot by watching his old stuff. And you don't have to do a ton, right? Like he has some big moves sometimes. There's a really nice sort of double arm suplex that he does here that I don't know if I'd ever seen before. But just the way that he does them, and like I said, the smoothness and the kind of the conviction with which he does all of his moves is just really incredible. There's another, he sells really well too. They're out on the floor and Flair chops him in the chest and he just drops to the floor, like whole body straight down. That's pretty incredible.
Flair locks Ricky into a figure 4 in the middle of the ring, and he's in that thing forever. Like I feel like 5 minutes of this match is spent with Ricky in a figure 4, grinding away in the middle of the ring, and his facials, and he's moaning, he's trying not to show pain, but then Flair tweaks a little bit and he's in writhing in agony again, and it's just so compelling. Even though it's just one move, it's just one hold for a very long time, but the way the two of them are reacting to each other in this moment is just spectacular. And there was also another moment that I thought was interesting, that Flair lands a flying crossbody from the ropes,
right,
from the top rope. And that's how he beat Harley Race to win the NWA championship in a very lackluster match. Yeah. But I thought that was an interesting callback to that. So this match just had everything in it. I don't know. I don't even know where to talk about it. Like Flair is doing all his dirty tricks with like using the ropes for leverage, trying to use the ropes to help him get a pin. Ricky just comes back at him with more chops, and like they're just, and like, so like they go technical, and then suddenly they're just beating the shit out of each other, and then they're technical wrestling, mat wrestling again, and it's so good, and you can't stop watching.
Yeah, I think as you're talking, it like the story that sort of evolves is, right, you've got these guys that are really skilled technical wrestlers, and they're here to do their wrestling thing, but on the other hand, they just freaking hate each other, right? So when the wrestling breaks down, then that's when they go back to the chopping the shit out of each other, and the chops in that arena just echo, like even over that Chicago crowd, you can hear them. There's one point where I'm pretty sure Ricky chops Flair in the face in one of those exchanges.
Oh yeah,
like maybe like the bottom of his jaw. And that crossbody that you're talking about is off of the Flair flip, right? He hits the corner, flips over the turnbuckle, and then runs, like freaking sprints down the apron, up the other set of ropes to the crossbody, and then Ricky flips it over for a pin attempt and just a 2 count.
And that's normally the spot where Flair gets caught on the top ropes and gets thrown, but that didn't happen here. This, they're mixing it up a little bit. Like Flair is actually like moving a little bit faster so he doesn't get caught, and is landing shit, and like everything that you were expecting to have happen out of Flair is not happening. Like Flair actually goes on the offensive some of this match instead of just selling the whole time. He does a double underarm suplex on Ricky Steamboat that's very tight and very impressive looking. And again, the figure 4, and then like he goes for the figure 4, and Steamboat reverses the figure 4 into a small package pin, and it was very reminiscent of the Macho Man win that we just watched at WrestleMania 8, of like out of nowhere the small package and the win.
Yeah, it's almost like Flair is taking a page from Ricky's book, sort of upping the speed in order to compete. And it makes for a really compelling match. The other thing I really liked about this match is Jim Ross is just going nuts on the announcing. He is talking about the history of the NWA. He's talking about the lineage of the belt going all the way back to Lou Thesz. He's dropping names like crazy. He talks about Flair's plane crash and his broken back, and like on and on and on. Like you could probably write a small chapter in a wrestling history book just off of Jim Ross's commentary during this particular
match. Ross
is
having his own podcast during this match. He's just
it's actually, this is a long match too. This is the longest match of the card. It's 23 minutes long, but compared to like that opening Michael Hayes match, which felt like easily twice that long, this thing is over before it really even before I felt like it even
Yeah,
was
this
starting.
match,
So
it felt like a minute. It was just because it was just so smooth and so logical from everything that they did, and yet it was also a war. They were at war with each other. It was just
So I'll say, a lot of times, some of these matches get a lot of hype, and you go back and actually watch them, and you're like, yeah, it's fine. I don't get it. Like this one, I get it. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like I understand why people talk about this match. I understand why people refer to it as, in sort of the top 10 ever. It's really worth your time. Even if you're not sort of into the NWA, if you like wrestling, this is a match for you.
And it's interesting too that it's not like this event needed this match to carry it. Like this was already a good event to watch, and then suddenly this match comes out of nowhere and is just great. It's just like for once the main event was the best match, hands down, by far, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah, they could have totally wrapped this event up with that Road Warriors match because, again, the way that the Road Warriors were over with the crowd, it was a title match. Like, it delivered on the violence. The crowd is super into it. But again, I'm glad that this match is here. So yet another kind of lame finish for this one, I will say. Maybe you disagree. I don't know. But so the finish for this one is Flair's got his feet on the ropes for the pin. The camera shot is looking under Flair's legs to see the ref on the other side. So the ref is like down there counting, and he gets a 2 count 3 times in a row, but he's like right next to Flair's legs on the rope. It may have just been the camera angle, but there's no way he can't see Flair's legs on the rope.
I think that was on the ref. That's not on. That's a ref botch, in my opinion.
Yeah, he should have been on the other side of Ricky, and then it wouldn't have been quite so obvious like how bad it was. So, but right after that, the ref gets bumped, and then, as you mentioned, Flair goes for the figure 4, which kind of Ricky he reaches up, kind of grabs him by the hair, and sort of rolls him up into a small package for the win, and the place just goes freaking nuts.
This is also where we get to see some old school face locker room versus heel locker room, of like all the faces are happy for Ricky Steamboat. Like you don't see that anymore, where like it's just everybody, all the good guys are all friends with each other. And so like the Steiners are back there and they're popping champagne. Sting is back there and they're congratulating Ricky, and then Ricky gives this promo afterwards, is like, Ric Flair is a hell of a competitor and when he's ready and when I'm ready, he can have the first match. He can have the first challenge. He gets his rematch. And then he just starts chugging champagne.
Well, so right before that, he pours champagne over his own head, and then it clearly is burning the shit out of his eyes. And so he's kind of sputtering, and he's got his eyes half closed. Eventually, somebody hands him a towel, but like my own eyes were watering, like watching that. I'm like, for the love of Christ, get this man a towel before he goes blind. So I was surprised he managed to get through that speech at all, actually. So, so there are 4 title matches in this special, and out of those 4, the belt changes hands in 3 of them. Only the Road Warriors come in and then leave with the belt. So it's a pretty momentous pay-per-view or show in terms of the the storylines and the angles that were leading in and then coming out of it.
Yeah, this was a great show. I enjoyed it a great amount.
So we're really glad we watched it. Check it out. It's on the Peacock. It's under the WCW brand, but it's easy enough to find with Chi-Town Rumble. So do I have to ask about best match? I mean, I think we're in agreement, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Flair versus Steamboat for me. It was technical but violent, and they beat the hell out of each other, and it had everything. It had everything.
If that match hadn't been here on the card, then it would have been Mike Rotunda and Steiner, which is another amazing match. So, but yeah, it's not going to win out over Ric Flair and Steamboat. Worst match?
That's Michael Hayes versus Russian Assassin 1. That match had nothing. It was too slow. It was too long. It had no meaning. It was just weird. And like, I like Michael Hayes / Doc Hendricks. I do like him. And I like the fabulous Freebirds of the stuff that I've seen of them. This match, I think this was a card fill. This probably would have been in WWF. This was a dark match to get the crowd warmed up.
Yeah, actually, I'm a little surprised it made it onto the show, except for that Michael Hayes has sort of like the pre-show duties of like getting people hyped.
Yeah, he's the carnival barker.
Yeah. I did all the cocaine. Here comes the show. It's a really good show, you guys.
So, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's
amazing. What was your oh shit moment for this show?
There's a couple good examples in there, but I think I went with the first exchange of chops between Flair and Steamboat. They were legit. They were hard hitting, and they sounded like gunshots. And Flair looked so shocked when Ricky came back at him with a chop immediately. And it was just such an amazing moment because like Flair was walking into this match as like, I'm the cocky champion. No one's been able to beat me. I'm going to take him out. I've got this. I got this. I don't have to worry about it. I brought all my ladies down to the ring to watch me. I'm just going to get this guy out of the way. And like he chops Ricky, expecting Ricky just to capitulate. And then Ricky comes firing back out of the corner with his own chops. And they're just as devastating.
Yeah, Ricky ain't having it. That's for sure. I don't know actually what mine is. It's probably something out of that same match. There were a few times when I just sort of like lost it when I was watching it. I think one of the big ones is that is Ricky chopping Flair over the top rope, and he just like goes all the way to the floor. That was a really good one. And then also Flair then chopping Ricky while they're out on the concrete, and he just drops straight down. Both of those made me say, oh shit, honestly.
Those are good examples. So what are you rating this one?
Man, this is tough. It's tough because we really have a sort of mental model, I think, built on WrestleManias, so a lot of the comparisons that I would make don't necessarily apply because it's just a different kind of product and a different kind of show. And so it's almost not fair to sort of like judge it. So I'm sort of trying to judge it on its own merits. And honestly, I would give this one maybe at least a 4, maybe even a 4.25 out of 5. I could probably be talked into a 4.5. And the reasons are, the card is so solid, not quite start to finish. We'll take Michael Hayes and the Russian Assassin off of there. But otherwise, like the quality of the talent here, just the clear skill that's on display through a lot of these matches is not something that you necessarily get in other promotions at the same time. So, and then of course that amazing finisher of a main event. So yeah, I'm going 4.25, maybe 4.5, depending on my mood.
Yeah, I understand how you feel about like trying to compare this to the WrestleManias and such like that. So in my mind, I was just trying to think of, well, did I enjoy watching this more than WrestleMania 19? Did I enjoy this more than WrestleMania 8? Did I enjoy this more than WrestleMania 18? And the answer is yes. After Michael Hayes and the Russian Assassin, it was nonstop action. All the matches were compelling. Lex Luger, Barry Windham, not exactly my cup of tea, but it was still a good match. And it's this match, this event had something that like all those WrestleManias that I just listed and most of the WrestleManias that we've watched don't have. So it has an incredibly solid main event, a main event that is worth paying the money to see. So you would have paid admission or paid for the pay-per-view or bought the VHS of this event alone to see Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair fight. But then it also has the sleeper match in it, Steiner and Rotunda. That's a total sleeper match that no one really talks about these days that deserves the talk. Similar to like the Macho Man Ric Flair match that we just had on WrestleMania 8. That really not a lot of people talk about that match, but that match is amazing. So you have the main event that's worth price of admission. Then you have a sleeper match that's tagged onto it. And then you have a good tag team match, championship defense with the Road Warriors versus Kevin Sullivan and Dr. Death. You see some real great fighting in that match. And then you have the compelling gimmick match as well with the 6-man tag. And I can't think of any other gimmicked 6-man tag that we've seen in any of the WrestleManias that we've watched that was as good. So I think I'm with you that this is pushing 4.5 territory here. If we would have had a Dusty Rhodes match on this card, we could have been looking close to 5 on this one. If like that Michael Hayes match would have been replaced with like a Dusty Rhodes versus Ron Simmons or something crazy like that. People's heads would have been exploding, and this show would have dominated everything, and WWF would have just been like, well, we can't compete with that. Shut it down. Cancel WrestleMania 5. We're done.
Yeah.
We just sell everything to the NWA. Jim Crockett.
We're going out of
Jim
business.
Crockett's still in business, But no, the show was chef's kiss. I can't.
Well, that's a sparkling recommendation. So you heard it here first, folks.
Anybody they wanted to see wrestling that was not the WWF product, I would tell them to start with this one. Probably it's concise. It's easy to sit down and watch this in one run, and then it's got Ricky Steamboat versus Ric Flair in it. That neither of those men, while they did work in WWF, are really known for their runs in WWF very much. They're known for their runs here, and they put on a show for the ages.
Yeah, it's a fantastic show. So I'm really glad we got a chance to dive into this one. We'll have to look for some other, NWA, WCW shows from around this time period. So if you all have recommendations of ones that you particularly like, we've watched Starrcade. We had talked about whether we wanted to do a episode on that, but honestly, that main event is kind of such a letdown in that first Starrcade, that Harley race and Flair, that we kind of had shied away from it a little bit. But anyway, if you want to have it, watch something specific, you can tweet at us at WrestleMania Pod. You can email us at WrestleManiablog@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at allthewrestlemanias.com and do our little online request form, and we'll do our best to get to it. Alrighty, so as we do with every event, we like to just take a moment to pay tribute to the men and women who are no longer with us from that event. So our in memoriam section for this show, the 1989 Chi-Town Rumble, includes David Sheldon, a.k.a. Russian Assassin No. 1, a.k.a. the Angel of Death, Paul Frederick, a.k.a. Manager Paul Jones, Hacksaw Butch Reed, Hiro Matsuda, Bobby Eaton, Road Warrior Animal, and Road Warrior Hawk, Dr. Death Steve Williams. Also, special shout out to Bob Caudle, the locker room interviewer on this show, who is still alive. He was in his 60s when this was done in 1989. He was born in either 1930 or 1932. So he's old when you can't quite pinpoint a date of birth. So he's in his early 90s at the very least, and he, as far as we can tell, is still out there and kicking. So we enjoyed his work here. We recognize and respect his long tenure with WCW and the NWA. So thanks for that, Bob.
Yeah, we did some serious research to try and figure out whether he's still alive. And I should have remembered from my actual job that it's harder to prove someone alive than prove them dead. And so once it became really difficult to find him dead, we should have known that he was alive. But then we found that tweet from Tony Schiavone from back in January of him and Bob having lunch together, and that was a really sweet photo, and we wish you all the best, Bob.
Yeah, they were at a pretty dope looking buffet too. So Tony, next time you guys do that, give us a call. We could throw down at a buffet. So alrighty, well, that'll wrap up this episode of All the WrestleManias on the NWA Chi-Town Rumble from 1989. We hope you've enjoyed listening. As always, find us on Twitter at WrestleMania Pod, on the web at allthewrestlemanias.com. You can find our blog at allthewrestlemanias.wordpress.com. And of course, you can email us at WrestleManiablog@gmail.com. So for now, I'm Tim Hackman.
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
Woo! So long, everybody.